All right, what's going on? So this is Unit 2, Lesson 5.1, Understanding Happiness. The learning outcomes explain what happiness is and is not. Identify the factors that influence happiness. Explain why happiness is a way of thinking and acting, and demonstrate skills to increase happiness. Here are the key terms on the side. There are 5 of them. You will define those, please. As you move down here, real quick, happiness is a positive emotion linked to well-being and contentment with life. Content means that you are okay with that. All right? Content just means being all right with it and being satisfied is another word. What does it mean to feel happy? So, a lot of people think that being happy just means you're doing good on a test. That's what you feel. You do good on a test. So you're happy, you got that summer job you wanted, that gives you happiness, you feel happy, or hanging out with friends. So happiness refers to experiencing a variety of positive emotions such as joy, pride, contentment, and gratitude. These emotions are all a part of well-being and contribute to positive mental and emotional health. Experiencing these positive emotions can help people cope with difficult life events and feelings, pursue goals, and connect more strongly with others. So obviously, if you are happy and you're consistently happy, that means there's a lot of benefits, right? And those benefits are kind of listed here too. Reduced risk of health conditions, faster recovery from health conditions, longer life, etc., etc. All right? So, what is happy? Kind of continue there. Anybody can be happy at a moment in time. There's this thing called a happiness continuum. In a sense, in the middle would be like neutral. So let's say the middle's neutral. On this side is you're slowly becoming more unhappy. If you're becoming more unhappy, that would lead towards like severe depression. Maybe it causes premature death from the stress. And on the other side would be better quality of life. Maybe a longer life. Okay, so on that continuum, so everybody is on the continuum somewhere. But anybody on that continuum can experience happiness, at least in a moment. All right. So it talks about that here on, I believe, this is page 143. It'll talk about that a little bit. Anybody can experience happiness in an instance. All right. There are health conditions that make it harder. Obviously, depression, that is a health condition. It's not necessarily just something that, is kind of guessed upon. People with depression actually have different brain chemistry. It could be hormones. It could be certain glands that are an improper size that makes it harder to feel the feeling of to be satisfied. I'm trying to think of the word for that. Satisfaction. Harder to feel satisfaction. Sorry. Harder to feel satisfaction. So it's an actual chemistry thing. It's science. Okay. It's not just something we kind of you don't feel good. Oh, you're depressed. Okay. There is science to it. All right. And that's why it can be treated medically. There are things that you can get from doctors' prescriptions, things like that actually alter the chemistry of the brain in a way that it can help prevent depression. There are other, if you think about other prescriptions such as like a birth control, what that would do is change hormones in the female's body in order for it to not become pregnant, the body, not the person. In order for the girl not to become pregnant, okay, it changes their hormones. There's a prescription out there called, I believe it's called finasteride or something. If a male takes it, it blocks testosterone, all right, and it stops male pattern baldness or slows it down. Okay, so just like those medicines alter hormones to get a benefit or a cause out of it, or just kind of alter the human body in a way. There is, treatment for depression too. It's kind of the same way. It changes hormones, so it's a chemistry deal. Moving down, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's constant if you're depressed. People with depression can obviously feel happy, and there's steps that they can take that we'll kind of go through here a little bit. to become happier. So just if you're depressed, it's not to be cliche, it is not the end of the world. There are things that you can do to feel satisfaction more often, more frequently. Factors that affect happiness. Okay, so it's not necessarily what happens to you or factors that, or things that happen to other people. Just because somebody wins the lottery and they get a bunch of money doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be happy. If they're not, able to be content with their own life and the relationships that they have before, winning a bunch of money isn't necessarily going to make them happy. Now, if they were a person that had a lot of stress because they were poor, but they had a good mindset that they loved their family and, they would work as hard as they could either way, et cetera, and then they won $1 million, that financial security would certainly help them, pad their happiness. But if you are already not happy, and let's say you had a gambling problem when you, that was kind of where you were throwing your stress and whatnot, when you didn't have very much money and all of a sudden you won $1 million, you're not going to be more happy. You're just probably going to gamble on a bigger level. So happiness isn't necessarily controlled by that. Making the varsity team on here is something that said, those might be good things, okay, but it doesn't necessarily change your happiness at its core. It's more so mindset and not the list of things that are happening to that person. All right. The biggest factor that they talk about, and hopefully it's on this next page, is genetics. Okay, it's that brain chemistry. It's how do you feel satisfied? All right. Genetics is probably the biggest thing, and that's where it talks about here. Kids with anxiety disorders have larger amygdalas in the brain. And that's what triggers the fear reaction. It's not their fault. It's how they're born. It's kind of like if somebody was born with more muscle, that person's going to be able to lift more weight. The person born with a larger amygdala is going to experience more fear on the regular. So not necessarily anything you can do about it. It's just genetics. And there is things you can do about it, steps you can take, like I talked about. There's therapy, there's the prescription medications, things like that. And that talks about it right here. It controls those imbalances. Mindset's huge. Okay. Mindset is a person's thought pattern, attitude, and mood. All right. Do you think things are going to get better? Do you dwell on things? And a lot of this can go back to kind of like how you were raised. If your parents had a good mindset and they knew how to teach you to have a good mindset, that obviously helps. It is something that can be learned later, for sure. It's not something that it's too late to learn to have a better mindset, but it does help, obviously, if you learn that from the time you're born. So, not surprisingly, it's harder for people with negative mindset to feel happy. Other types of mindsets can influence happiness. Some people have a growth mindset, which means they believe change is possible with time, effort, and practice. It's kind of like picking up a basketball, and if you have never done it before and you shoot and you miss really bad, or getting on a skateboard, that's probably something people do a little bit less. If I got on a skateboard right now, I would fall on my back and hurt myself. But I do know that if I keep getting on a skateboard, eventually I will get better. And that's a growth mindset. But if I get on a skateboard, fall on my back and think, wow, I'm just not good at this, that is a fixed mindset. Okay. They believe their current feelings and abilities are basically permanent. That's not going to change. So that kind of correlates over to your mindset. So if you feel unhappy and you have a fixed mindset, you're in trouble because you think that can't be changed. But if you have a growth mindset, you understand that there are steps you can take, relationships you can build, etc., to improve your satisfaction. So this just kind of talks about some of the things I've talked about with genetics already. Meaning, purpose is a stable and generalized intention to accomplish something that is both meaningful to the self and consequential for the world beyond the self. All right. So purpose is, what do you want to bring to the world? What impact do you have? A lot of people struggle with that. Some people, that's why a lot of times people do careers that aren't necessarily involved with making a lot of money. They know that they can lead youth, kind of like a teacher in a way, or maybe it's not a teacher, maybe it's like a leader in a church, or let's just say you run a camp after school camp to help kids get involved in the community, or you're a tutor for children, whatever. or you do community service all the time, okay? Those are all different things you can do to have a purpose. You're helping other people. You're benefiting a cause farther than your own cause, all right? There's no huge gain to you other than experiences, relationships, okay? That's purpose. What do you want to bring to the world? Why do you want to be here, etc.? Okay? Relationships. So if, relationships are huge, obviously, and that's not just talking about like boyfriend, girlfriend. This is like talking about relationships with your parents, relationships with your friends, relationships with new people that you just met, your ability to make relationships, relationships with teachers, bosses, everything. So relationships are huge. If they just open more doors for you along the line, it can help you have more meaningful like laughs, and pleasure there. Might help lead you into new job opportunities where you can experience more of the world, new things that you like to do on the regular. It can kind of contribute to that purpose if some of these relationships lead you into a certain path. So that's why they're so important, okay? People with high quality relationships have better physical health, including lower blood pressure, lower body mass index, and stronger immune systems. They also engage in healthier behavior, recover faster from surgery, and are less likely to develop a chronic disease. And if you have good relationships, the people you surround yourself with, work hard and take care of their bodies, it's going to kind of correlate to you. And same thing with their mind. If they're taking care of their mind, they might have ways to help you improve your mental day-to-day basis. Okay? So read these over. High school students who focus on finding meaning to tend to, and run through those. I don't really have time to cover it with you here. Strategies for increasing happiness. Set and work towards goals. We talked about goals and things like that. If you're accomplishing goals, it helps you get that sense of purpose, that sense of control of your life. So set and work towards some goals. I won't touch on that too much. Maintain those close relationships. It's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. Sometimes people say that means having 4 good friends that will always be there for you, that you can put a lot of time in those 4 friends instead of splitting up your time and throwing it in 100 different buckets. If you hang out with, if you pay a little bit of attention to one person, or 100 different people, you probably haven't given them enough attention to come pick you up, drive 2 hours and pick you up out of the middle of nowhere because your car broke down. But if you have 4 friends, and you've really invested in those people, they're probably willing to drive 2 hours and come get you. I've actually had that situation happen before when I was in college. Give to other people. Give help. Volunteer. Pick up litter in the community. We talked about this in community health. Donate blood. Give patience. Let somebody in a hurry ahead of you in line if they're trying to get out of there. Be nice there. Hold a door open for someone. Let a car get in front of you on the highway. That's nice. Save them some anxiety. Actively listen when someone's talking without distractions. Being a good listener is so huge. To feel like somebody's listening to what you say and giving you good feedback is great. Give money or goods. I know you guys might not have a lot of money right now, but you can do other things. Donate your old clothes or books that your toys you're not using anymore to kids in need, things like that. So close relationships, giving to other people, adopt healthy behaviors, eating good breakfast and stuff like that. It's a huge mental thing. So if you're not eating breakfast, it's definitely easier to let your mental state slip because you're hungry and you're just letting that pile up on all the schoolwork and things like that. Prioritize experiences. The smartphones and things like that, they come and go. This is an iPhone XS. This is like my 4th or 5th iPhone, and every time I get a new one, I love it, and I think I can't like it more. And then you get the next one, and it's the same thing. Okay, here in 10 years, if I had this same phone that I was in love with, it's not going to be worth anything. But if you're going to the Grand Canyons and you're going on trips and hanging out with friends, those are the things that never get old. They hold their value for the rest of your life. Okay. I know that sounds cliche, but it is the stinking truth. If you have any questions on this, I know this one felt kind of brief. There was a lot to get through in a short period of time. But just let me know. Email me, message me on Canvas.